everyone. I'm Carol Carnes, and this is Living Consciously. Well, today we're talking about being you. Nobody else can do it. It's your job. Eleanor Roosevelt said, not only do you have a right to be an individual, you have an obligation to be one. We're going to talk about that a little bit, how it fits into the grand scheme of things, the evolution of the species, and just the general reality that we all share, how important it is for individuals to be individual. We can get pretty caught up in trying to please other people or convince them of something about us or something we're not. It's a dead-end street. We have to be authentically us. And I know that that has a lot to do with self-trust. You know, do you hear people saying, I don't trust the government, or I can't trust that person, or I don't trust my husband or my wife, or I'm not sure I trust this job I've got. Well, what they're really saying is, I don't trust myself to be authentically me in any situation, whether it's a relationship, at work, or a citizen of a country. And now, think about that. It's a little bit, takes a little bit of thought. But we can't trust anybody else if we don't trust ourselves. And we can't trust ourselves if we don't love ourselves. So we're going to talk about that subject that comes up all the time, about loving yourself, trusting yourself so that you can be authentically an individual and make your contribution to the evolution of the species. And if you want to put it this way, the divine plan. I want you to think for a minute. I was thinking about this morning. How unlikely it was that you got born. I mean, when you think about the immensity of the universe, and you think about one little tiny sperm and one little egg that got together, and here you are. It's pretty unlikely. I don't even know what the odds are. But you won that race, and you became you. And no one has ever been just exactly who you are before and never will be again. Like the fingerprints or the snowflakes. No two are alike. There isn't another you anywhere in the universe. So what is it about you that you don't love? You know, it's like, that's enough right there. I'm a winner. I got born. And my being is in some way connected to something beautiful. You know, the universe is a beautiful expression of pure intelligence and love. Spirit, God, the universe, creates beauty. Just look around. All the ugliness in the world is created by men, not spirit. Spirit created beauty, and it's everywhere throughout the universe, with the symmetry of the planets in orbit and the galaxies and the novas bursting into the universe, all the things that happen throughout the universe. And locally, in your body, in your bloodstream, and everything about us is an intentional expression of pure love and intelligence. So why wouldn't we honor that with our own love and intelligence? So we want to be very careful to understand when we talk about loving the self, we're not talking about nurturing the ego, that scheming, screaming, want, need, gotta have self. Or even the local mind that isn't screaming and scheming, but is local. You know, we can love ourselves because we've learned to forgive and forget, because we're kind to others, because we help people in need. That's okay, but that's really based on accomplishments. I'm talking about something else today. For no reason to love yourself except that you live, that you are, that God created you out of itself by becoming you. That's what New Thought spirituality says. And because there's so much more to us, and that to honor the self that we know ourselves to be now kind of opens up the gate, or opens up the rest of us to come through. And we find ourselves able to do more, express more on a higher level. Ralph Waldo Emerson had something to say about that. He said, what lies behind us, what lies before us, are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. So what lies behind us, our past, what lies before us, our future, are nothing compared to what lies within us, our own potential, our own possibility, our own greater self. So can you, as a human being, set aside what the world thinks you ought to be doing, and just be true to yourself because you love yourself. You know, I wrote about self-trust this morning in my blog, and it has so much to do with learning to rely on your intuition and follow it, rely on your higher instincts and follow them, make choices and new ones if the ones you made didn't turn out the way you thought they would, without beating yourself up. You see, you trust yourself to make the next right decision. I saw some quote today on Facebook. Right now, I can't remember who said it. Somebody famous, old time. It said, people who change often love themselves. Now, isn't that interesting? I don't think most people put those two things together, but they do go together. You trust yourself enough, well, to make mistakes, for one thing, if you want to put it that way. You know, I don't even think they're mistakes so much as, okay, I think I can take another path. It's that simple. I did that, now I'm going to do this. We tend to beat ourselves up, and that's because we're saying, I don't trust myself anymore. I shouldn't have done that. Who did that? I don't like that person. No, we cannot live like that and be happy and be fulfilled. So we have every reason to love the being that is being us. And in my world, that's God. Why wouldn't I love the being that's being me, or the universal aspect of myself that's personalizing itself? Why wouldn't I love that? Of course I do. And I think it's a spiritual necessity. I think it's a spiritual practice to love yourself, not a psychological one at all. You read a lot about the psychological part of it, but no, this is a spiritual practice to simply give yourself lavish praise for being you. For no reason. Isn't that funny? You know, when people meditate every day, after a while they become happy for no reason. Well, I want us to think about loving ourselves for no reason other than the fact that we exist. So, we can overcome anything and create anything that we really want if our self-identity is rooted in that spiritual embodiment, the being that is being us. That's the key, isn't it? Is to bypass the thinking mind, the naysaying mind, that part of us, and tap into that being that is being us. You can get tangled up in these words, the being that is being the beingness of the beingness. But let's just get clear. Something wonderful is behind you and me and is actually expressing by means of us. But in order to do it individually, it has to leave us to our own devices. But we can draw upon it. So we can draw upon it by changing our self-identity, and that's always, that's what Emerson was reminding us of, that who you are is greater than anything out there, anything in the past or the future, or what you see in front of you. You are greater than anything. And the past and the future are effects of who we thought we were. But the future can be changed by changing who we know we are now. So what prohibits many people from experiencing life in all its fullness is a sense of inadequacy. Gosh, I feel so bad for people who feel inadequate. And I'm not saying I never do, but I don't sit there very long, because I know my life is my design in a way, and that I can rise above things and I can move through things, and I trust myself to meet any challenge that comes my way. If we feel inadequate, it means I don't trust myself. I don't love myself enough to think I'm greater than any effect, but we are. So some of that inadequacy comes from guilt for past acts. You know, if you could change anything in the past, wouldn't that be great? But you can't. You can only change your perception of it. And that doesn't mean you say, well, that never happened. You just say, it doesn't matter now, because it doesn't. You know, you're the only one that knows about it, actually, the way you're perceiving it. It's all an internal experience. So we want to shift our tendency to base now on the past or the future, and shift it to being aware of who we are now in this moment, alive, alert, capable of love, capable of joy, capable of creating, of being artistic, of creating beauty, of praise. You know, I was reading something Michael Beckwith wrote recently. He's an old buddy of mine, and he, in one of his first books, he said, find the words of praise that are uniquely yours, you know, that lift you. Because praising something lifts us. So we could say, I love the beauty of nature. I praise nature for being so abundantly beautiful, for nurturing the world, for bringing us what we need when we need it, the rain, the sun, the apples on the trees. Praise, you know, look for the good and praise it. But look internally and praise it too. Look in the mirror and praise it too. It's so easy for those of us in this youth culture and this beauty culture, and we're talking about superficial beauty, to look in the mirror and go, oh, where did that wrinkle come from? But we want to praise the beauty of the aging process. It is beautiful when you think about, you started off like a speck and you went through babyhood and toddler and little kid and preteen and teen and young adult and mature adult and now elder. It's a beautiful thing. And we ought to praise it for what it is, a journey of the being that's being us, having an experience as us. So what are we giving it to do? What are we giving this magnificent universal self? Are we giving it the praise that it's due, because it is due some praise? Lucille Ball, who I loved, said this: you truly have to love yourself to get anything done in the world. Love yourself first, and everything else falls into place. Now, isn't that an interesting thing for a movie star to say, whose livelihood was based on how she affected others? But when you think about her, in particular, Lucille Ball, she really did it her way. Here was a beautiful woman who used to be a showgirl, who was willing to make herself look ridiculous in order to make people laugh. And because of that, she had a tremendous success in the world. Beyond any other woman, she developed her own production company and made millions in a time when women were not making millions, because she was being herself. And everything else works better if you are not putting up a false front of any kind, if you are not pretending. You know, it was Emerson who said, be and not seem. That's a pithy little statement. You know, be who you are. Don't try to be something else or seem to be something else. Actually, think about, who am I? What is it about me that's special, that's unique, that's something, that's a gift? It might be your sense of humor. It might be your ability to sing. It might be writing. It might be your compassion, your kindness, your willingness to serve other people. Everybody has something, and more than one thing usually. We all do. And it's for a reason. It's to diversify the oneness. You see, the Spirit, God, is nothing if not one something. It's a unified field. We're here to diversify it, to personify it, to individualize it. Oh, we can't do that authentically if we don't like who we are. So on being us, it's important for us to consider how important it is to love and praise ourselves. Okay, so we're coming up on our first break, well, our only break really, and we're very happy with sponsors who choose to be here for us and allow us to have this program on the air. So listen closely and then come back, because we'll be here waiting for you.
This is a national healthcare alert from the Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You could qualify for a pain-relieving knee brace at little or no cost to you. Get free delivery, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers at no charge to you. We also have other pain-relieving braces available for shoulder, ankle, and your back. Call the number on your screen right now to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call Low Cost Airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business. According to the secret war, banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get the secret war free. Call the number on your screen or visit online.
Okay, we're back, and if you're just joining us, I'm Carol Carnes, and thanks for being a part of our experience today. We're talking about you, all of us, loving ourselves beyond a psychological kind of thing. It's a spiritual necessity. And as Eleanor Roosevelt said, we have an obligation to be truly who we are because we're a part of a system of life becoming, life evolving, life ever expanding, and it can't do it without individuality and diversity, and that's the purpose. But as Lucille Ball said, you can't get anything done if you don't love yourself first, and then everything falls into place. And you see, we live in the realm of the physical where things come and go. Fame, fortune, relationships, wealth, poverty, acknowledgement, accomplishment, they all come and go. And if we're not stable in who we are as we move through the coming and going, we find ourselves chasing after them, and it's never enough. That's what greed is. Greed comes from a belief that I'm not enough, and so I can never get enough to make myself feel like I'm enough. That's what all of this pursuit of stuff is, if it isn't balanced with a sense that I'm not possessed by it. They may be my possessions, but they don't possess me, right? Put it to the test. You think, who would I be if everything I own were gone tomorrow? A lot of people are finding that out right now, unfortunately, because of the hurricanes and floods and fires. It's devastating. But it is a real test. And as many people who have gone through this, not to say they haven't had terrible sense of sadness, but they get over it quickly because they're alive. And many people will say that, well, at least we're all still alive, because that's where the value is, okay? So for just in a day-to-day world that we live in, we need to remember that. How unlikely it was that we got born in the first place. What a gift life really is. What a gift consciousness is. Think about it. To be aware, to be able to think, able to imagine, able to see into the future and recall the past. Very great gifts, but they must be managed. And what balances them out and keeps them from consuming us is self-love. Why would that be? Because self-love is the same thing as loving God, loving Spirit. And the only thing Spirit requires of us is that we love ourselves. That's it. That's all we have to do. And as Lucille Ball said, everything else falls into place. Because everything, the kingdom has already been given. It's a field of possibility that you and I are a part of and that we access through our mind, our consciousness. And that means our expectations, our perceptions, what we think is possible. That all comes from what we think about ourselves. Every other belief we have comes from do I love myself or not? Do I trust myself or not? These are really key things. You can't overstate it. Every idea we have, every belief we have is rooted in the foundation of who am I? And so that's why in New Thought Spirituality we talk so much about us being one with the source. It's not up there, it's in here, as Emerson said. It's coming through us. We are the through line for God to express itself in a spectacular display of diversity. So let's do our part. So if we spend our lives trying to gain things that will make us feel our worth, we're in a losing battle, because nothing can make us feel worthy except a decision to realize we are. I am worth being me because I am. It's that simple. We don't have to. I think, in our culture, especially in the West, we have this thing about earning everything instead of just accepting what is. And what is our life. And and as I said, the kingdom has been given already. We don't have to gain God's favor and beg for anything. We need to be able to draw it forth, the things that are ours by right of our self-esteem, our self-love, which is the same thing as a love of spirit or a love of God. You see, what we know as God is actually the center of beingness. And if we love ourselves, we are loving God. So think of what people have done to gain God's love. They flagellate themselves. They go on extensive fasts. They're celibate. They renounce the world. They live in extreme poverty. Lots of self-denying practices to try to get God's love. And they don't have to do that. God doesn't require anything. It's love. God is love, and it's in us, as us. Love is the center of our being. So if we mistakenly think that God is elsewhere, that's when we start that silly stuff, trying to get its attention. You don't have to do that. It's always listening. Someone said to me the other night, how can you feel God's love if you don't feel love for yourself first? You can't. And what is it to feel God's love? It's just to be in love with life, with being, with everything about it, and praise it. That's how you feel God's presence, is through your own love and praise of your life. That's it right there, because it is loving and praising us all the time. So it can be as simple as looking in the mirror. And I know this is silly. People, thinking adults, intelligent adults say, oh, I'm not going to do that. Well, that tells you something right there. If you can't look in the mirror and say, wow, I love you, I love myself, what a great being I am. Thank you, God, for creating me in your image and likeness. If we can't do that, we got some work to do. Because it's these simple practices that keep us stayed, if you will, on the good, the true, and the beautiful. It's a mental tune-up to keep our mind in the right place so that we don't stray off into self-rejection. And it's so easy to do. It's so easy to not love yourself because of past mistakes or what other people think or anything. We can conjure up a whole bunch of reasons not to love ourselves, and it's ridiculous. None of them mean anything, and we're probably the only people that are noticing it in the first place. We worry about what other people think of us, and as someone wise said, usually they're not thinking of you at all. It's you that's got that problem. Okay, so try this. I love being me. I love living this life. I love knowing the source of all life is my partner. I love myself, and the self loves me. So we do have a silent partner, and it's a universal aspect of our own being that we call God, but it's very personal. And the reason you and I can know ourselves is because it is knowing us. It is knowing itself as us. God's consciousness is your consciousness. So can we learn to think like God would think? That's the different thing than praying to some outside source trying to get its attention to give us something. It's thinking as if you were God. Now, that's not blasphemous. There's no such thing as blasphemy or heresy. That's all made up, man-made stuff. Think as God. Think from the infinite. Think from the universal. You know, my life is whole and complete. And everything that could possibly improve the quality of my life is already mine to partake of, to draw into my experience, to praise and affirm and allow it to come forth. So let's praise our good every day. Praise your money, praise your home, praise your health, praise your body, praise your friends, praise everything. And you'll see what a difference that makes in your life. You know, every Sunday morning at 10:30 at the Mesilla Community Center on Calle de Santiago, we meet. Right now it's still a fairly small group, but with wonderful people, really smart people. And we get together and I do a talk similar to this, and we do some meditation together because that's really important. And then we have a little discussion if you want to say anything or not. But it's a wonderful way to end a week and start a week. You know, start on a high note. On Monday morning, you'll take some of this with you. And you can watch these programs again on YouTube. You know, they pick me up. I used to live in Canada, so there's a lot of people up there watching these YouTube presentations that we do. We put a new one up every week, so avail yourself of that. And get on our website, Mesilla Valley Center for Spiritual Living.org, mvcsl.org. You can make a donation to us. We'd really appreciate it. We are a nonprofit. And you can do it via PayPal. And we really thank you in advance for your support of that. I'm available to officiate at weddings, memorials, and baby namings. So all you have to do is contact me at my personal email, ccarnes7@gmail.com. All right, that's it for today. We hope you come back and stay tuned in. Love yourself. You deserve it.